think feel like I've seen you post this online at some point, this sentiment, which is like, you always have more ideas than you can act on. Lots of people have shared this sentiment. And this is for sure true when have your own business, especially people also give you lots of advice. If you feel like you're having a shortage of life advice, tell people you're starting your own business and you will get more life advice than you ever thought was possible.
You may or may not get business advice, but you'll get life advice.
People use the word should around me more than I ever imagined. It's unbelievable. It's all very well-meaning and I love it. But what happens is you're doing your business and then you're trying to make this one saleable thing. But of course you get 5 other ideas that are all like pretty good and pretty interesting. And before I had the book, I didn't know what to do with these ideas. I tried to carry them around all at once in my head. And so I was like this shopper at Christmas trying to buy presents for his extended family. And just before I would get to the cash register, it was like, I remember 3 other family members that I forgot to get presents for. And I had to go back, get more presents for. It was a nightmare. So then when I had the book, I had all of a sudden like a place to put these ideas. I would just made like another, I could just like, okay, now I have this goal, but now I have like an idea, right? So I have another idea and another idea and another idea. And I could just make these tree diagrams in my notebooks. But because I started writing them down, I didn't have to carry them in my brain anymore. I could just be like, great, that's an amazing idea. I'm gonna deal with that next week or whenever, stick it in the book. I don't know if I didn't expect to use the book this way, but one of the litmus tests I've started to apply is if I have an idea, do I know people who can collaborate to make it happen? Like, do I have a network that can give life to this idea? That's not the exact phrase. Mm-hmm. And the answer is no, I don't do it. Or at least like I immediately just park that in the future thing. And I think that's mostly because I have to like raise a village to make these things go. Right. And I presume you have many villages. Well, you document them in the book, right? You have all of these villages, and so that work is sort of already done. But for me, somebody who's just starting out, I am still in the process of like raising the town, and I haven't built that up soon enough.
When we were talked before this call and this video. You had said you thought about networks differently because you used to sort of think about networks as in sort of like a confined, like kind of geographic space, after your sort of life in New York and how reading this book changed this. And I think that ties into your whole thought about villages and the villages you have, because you may move from New York, which is a bunch of little villages, and Law, which is its own little village, to back to Toronto and do a bunch of different things, but you still have a tie back to all those villages, but you had looked at it differently in the past.
Yes. Sorry, I was just making notes as you talk. I hope that's okay. It's helped me listen. Yes. Okay. So I think what I was saying, especially when I came back, when I was at school in England, and then I came back and stopped being a lawyer again, I didn't have any more professional communities. I had moved back to Toronto not to take a job and not to go to school. And I felt extremely lonely, which is kind of crazy given, as you say, I've lived in New York, I have this community there, I have this community in England, I have this community in Toronto from before I left 8 years ago. But because I wasn't in a physical space, like a school or an office, like a geography, I didn't recognize the communities. And so for a while, I was just really lonely, inexplicably. And then part of what crystallized for me in the book is that community, of course, is not attached to physical space. It's a coincidence. And for sure, it's a lot easier to show up at a university and like meet 150 people. Like, that's amazing. I wish I could do that every day. But that's not the only place that it exists. And once I came to this realization, this makes it sound like it was like a light bulb moment, but of course it percolates over time. All of a sudden I was able to look around and see that, in fact, I know tons and tons of people. I haven't been in touch with them in a while. So there's work to like reactivate or reanimate the communities, but they very much exist. I am far from alone and without assistance. And I continue to think about that hard. Like, that's something I think about or remind myself on a regular basis, weekly or monthly. That was a huge lesson for me. Thank you.